One of the things that kind of the subplots or side lines of this whole Harwell business is the reaction to Bo Schembechler. I mean, Bo has been a controversial figure, but rather beloved in certain quarters, I would think, over the years for the college bowl he did. Made a lot of people happy for a long time. At first, he was the villain of the piece. So why do you think people turned on Bo so quickly?
Well, probably because the total picture hadn't cleared itself, and it still hasn't. Excuse me. Bo came out and said it's nothing against Ernie Harwell or his ability, and as we saw the Ed Phelps clip, Ed talked about what a wonderful announcer Ernie is, and the job he's doing is still a good job. There's been no question regarding his abilities and whether or not it has slipped appreciably to the point where he's not doing a good job anymore. Bo came out and with the callous term that we want to go in another direction, and just left it at that. Left Ernie hanging, left really the public hanging as to really what was the reason or reasons for him being dismissed. And the lack of a clear response by Bo and by WJR just left so many questions in the air that we all became more frustrated as we tried to look at the reasons, tried to find the reasons ourselves without being helped by those two entities, the Tigers and WJR. And I think that's the reason that Bo's taken a lot of heat. He seemed to have this cavalier approach towards it all. Hey, it's a tough decision. Somebody has to make it. And I've made tough decisions before, and I can make this one and live with it. Mm-hmm. They both, the WJR and the Tigers, both underestimated the fan reaction. And in fact, Ernie Harwell underestimated the reaction, what it would be too. Ernie did not want to do anything that would cause the uproar that it has. Ernie was just being honest with his disappointment and his frustration over being dismissed, one, and for not having an explanation as to why. And now Bo has come out and said some things. In fact, WJR has come out and said some things that really leaves the issue even, I think, more cloudy. Joe Falls has written something. It's just a situation that we still need clarified.
Well, about a week later, Joe Long, I think it was the program director. Jim Long, over at WJR, came over, and almost unknown figure, especially compared to somebody like Bo Schembechler, and sort of took the blame for it. That kind of did that change anybody's feelings, or?
It did initially, because all of a sudden now it looks as though Bo isn't one of the bad guys. It looks as though he is riding the white horse with the white hat, and he was the guy that saved Ernie's job at least for one more year, so that Ernie can have his swan song for one final year around the American League. But even that, I don't think, has cleared everything up. In fact, WJR, sources inside WJR this week have been quoted as saying that it couldn't have been a Jim Long decision all by itself, and in fact that maybe it was actually a joint decision, that both sides should be taking equal blame / credit, or responsibility maybe is the better term, and that maybe Bo is not necessarily, or shouldn't necessarily be viewed totally now as the guy on the white horse and the white hat. WJR and the Tigers just recently signed a contract, a 5-year deal, that calls for an end to that contract if one of the parties should do anything that would be embarrassing to the other. Now, WJR's ratings have been slipping in the last few years, and in fact, the November-December book, or the final quarter book, which did not include any Tiger baseball games, October, November, December, showed JR's ratings down to 7.8, which is down dramatically compared to what it had been in years, well into the double-figure numbers, and I believe it was like 9.5, 9.6, somewhere in the high 9 point something in the last couple of months with the Tiger games. Now, I'm just wondering if it's a matter of one wanting to point the finger at the other, and really neither taking the time to say, hey, we both made the decision, regardless of the channel of command. We both made the decision, and maybe it was a bad decision.
Yeah. Well, let's take one more look with Drew. He went back to talk to Ed Phelps again after the news came out, where Jim Long took responsibility for it. And let's see what Drew found out talking to Ed.